Welcome to the first series of men intentionally living, looking into a crunchy lifestyle. I'm here with Jason Morrow. Am I saying that right?
Tomorrow.
Morrow?
Either way, however you say tomorrow, but without the two. That's how I usually go for it.
Jason is a father, husband, writer. I wrote down comedian. I'm also really impressed by your Creed cover. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, when I was growing up, there was a band, they were called Creed. And I would go to wrestling practice, and the music of choice was always Creed.
Of course.
Dude, it was such a banger. And right around the time of the Super Bowl, I'm thinking you dropped a cover of you, or was there a piece you did? How did you get to? Why did you play Creed? Where did that come from?
Well, we've done a few videos where we're just wanting some, music from our past in the back. So it's actually really weird for me to hear you say, when I was growing up, there was this band called Creed. Like, you have to explain it to people. Like, to me, that just baffles me. It's like,
Right?
well, you should know what Creed is. Like, what
Do
are
you
you
think? Do you
doing?
think people do? Do people know what Creed is?
I mean, people our age, I guess.
I would hope so. I mean, they were
You're
everything.
younger, but apparently they're coming back. I don't know how you do that with the same songs. So it's not like they're coming back with new songs. They're coming back with the same. So they were good. But
Dude.
but like, so we were talking before, how you get inspired whenever you go on a run, and
Yeah.
so I do the same thing when I'm trying to think of video ideas. But I'll put on a playlist. Music, for whatever reason, will spark these ideas for comedy videos a lot of times. And I was playing Creed.
Yes.
What's it called? Hold Me Now. I don't know what the
Arms
actual
Wide
song.
Open? Is that the name?
No. That's a different one. Which
Okay.
it's a good one too. But yeah. And I just heard this song, and then the idea for putting it at the end of the lyrics of that song. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking.
It was like a dairy thing. It was you were avoiding dairy.
Yeah, we're like a no dairy diet for 30 days, and I'm just like counting down. You got that 24. Did you ever watch the show 24 back in the day?
100%.
So you have that on my countdown, and it was just like it. Yeah, I had it. Creed inspired that just from listening to a playlist on a run. So
not to get too off track here, but I'm very intrigued now. The show 24. Because I'm sure my wife will listen to this so she can make fun of me.
We could easily go off track, by the way. Go in 1,000 different directions.
I remember watching 24. Kiefer Sutherland is the main in that, and I think did an outstanding job.
Oh yeah.
But I turned it on for my wife, right, nowadays, and we're watching 24, and I just remember it being the most action-packed. On the edge of my seat. I couldn't wait. Like 2 episodes in, she's like, "I hate this," and I was like,
"What?
I don't want to watch this with you again. I need this to stay how it was when I remember watching it.
Just wait until season 5. You'll love it."
I'm like,
that's kind of a
not everybody's who you think they are. People, there's backstabbing. It's really got a promise. And
constant backstabbing.
Same with The Matrix. She wasn't into The Matrix.
Really?
Yeah, she did into The Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, you get into the second and third one, it gets a little weird, but I could see that. But if you're not hooked on the first one, I don't know what you're doing.
Aside from all the things we've talked about thus far, Jason is a crunchy, living, intentional person, as far as we know, as he said before. And I wanted to jump in here quickly and get to know you better for myself, just because I'm interested, because I like you, but also so that other people that are listening to this can also get to know you. And so I wanted to have you give me a quick recap. Now, we've done an episode before. We had both our wives on here. So go back and listen to that. I'm sure it'll be way more organized and a lot more, professionally done. But for the listeners today, give me a quick recap of what it was like for you growing up, like where you grew up, where you went to school, and then I have some specific questions about like hobbies and sports and things like that. But where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up mostly in Western Kentucky. My dad was a pastor. So I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, lived a lot of my early childhood around Jackson, Mississippi.
Goodness.
And then moved up to Kentucky, where I spent, most of my life. But yeah, your typical 90s childhood, raised on Twinkies and Nickelodeon, and
What was your
so
Nickelodeon show?
Doug for me. I really
Hmm.
liked Doug.
I liked
I don't
Doug too. I was down with Fairly Odd Parents. I could watch it.
see.
That
I
was
feel like
Nickelodeon, right?
that was a little bit past my time.
Was it?
I don't know. I think I was getting into older stuff by that point. I don't know. When did that? I don't even know when that came out.
I
I
don't either.
did see it, but yeah, I think Doug was a little earlier. How old are you? I don't.
I'm 30. I'm 31.
Okay, I'm 30. I'm almost 38. So I might.
We
In
might have
those
a gap
early
right there.
days, that gap is enough. I mean, do you ever watch those old cartoons and like you thought that there were so many of them, and it comes out like later you find out there was just
A
one
season.
season.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
have.
what?
It's like that with like Tom and Jerry, where I'll turn that
Really?
on for my kids. I feel like I remember there being
There's
like
like 4
infinite.
episodes.
I feel like there was like infinite episodes of Tom and Jerry, and like
Yeah.
it's not that way. Now SpongeBob is still cruising, right? That
That's
show
crazy.
never stopped. I don't think. I think it's still rolling.
I
And
wouldn't
I'm not
know.
watching it currently, so. But that's kind of
It's
how I
on
feel.
the side over here.
Did you play sports growing up?
Yeah. Well, actually, so I didn't play any. Early elementary I did, and then didn't play any because I felt so intimidated my whole life. Like, my brother was really good at sports, and I was never as good as him. But he was 6 years older than me, and so I
Yeah.
should have like really seen that, but I didn't really see that, and he could just dominate me, mostly in basketball. We mostly played basketball. And then I went to public school at the beginning of high school, and most of my friends were from my church, and they were all mostly a grade ahead of me. And so that friendship from church was at school as well, and then they all graduated, and I was kind of by myself. And so at my senior year, I'm like, I'm gonna go to a different school, and I went to
Wow.
this smaller Christian school, and I tried. I played basketball, played baseball, and I truly regretted not doing that all of my high school years. I started, which it was a small school, but I was a starter for which baseball there weren't enough of us for me not to start, but for basketball I started in the middle of the year. I wasn't that great when I started, and then in the middle of the season I was an actual one of the 5 players to start. So it was
No
pretty
kidding.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
Do you
we
dabble in any of
didn't.
that today?
What's that?
Do you dabble in any of those sports today?
Well, I'm actually this fall coaching little first graders in basketball. Don't know how that's gonna go.
It's gonna be awesome. That's what it's gonna be.
I don't. It's again that confidence thing. I signed up for it, and then I immediately emailed the guy and was like, "Wait, I haven't played basketball in like 15 years, so I don't know if you actually want me to do this." And he said, "Well, can you encourage kids?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Are you a nice person?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "You'll do great." Okay. Do I make them run suicides? I mean, they're 6 years old. How much can I yell? I was yelled at a lot.
So funny. Our memories of sports growing up is only just like it's the same thought of our parents saying, I was walking uphill both ways in the snow to school. It's like when I talk about my sports life, it was like we did 3 a days. I was puking every day.
Yeah.
We were sprinting all the time, and our kids are like, "Did that actually happen?" I'm like thinking back, like, I don't know. I remember it being pretty.
Is it okay if the 7-year-olds are collapsing? I'm not sure. I mean, we were doing shirts and skins when I was in high school. I'm like, that's weird. Now, just flip your jersey inside out,
There's a lot of ways to combat the shirts and skins. It seems simple back then.
It's not necessary. It's really not necessary.
So
you don't do that in other sports like baseball. Like, well, the batter, he has to take his shirt off. Like, well, that's weird.
That's
I
so
can
true.
tell who the other 5 people are. I think we could figure this out.
Oh my gosh. So my in-laws play baseball. I grew up playing wrestling and soccer.
Yeah.
And so I had no experience in baseball. I have nothing against it. I just am bad at it. Yeah. And my in-laws are really a big baseball family, and for a while they had this like father-son baseball tournament that would happen every year. And of course, once I kind of married into the family, now I'm, on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the jersey and I just remember like I played the two sports that you wear the least amount of clothing possible to be successful, essentially, right? Wrestling is like a singlet, right? And maybe headgear, but I didn't even wear headgear, and shoes. And then in soccer, it's like, you're wearing short shorts, a shirt, you're trying to be as light as you can because you're out there just dying in heat. And then I went to baseball and I was like, man,
like, this is winter
right
gear.
now.
What are you doing?
I'm like, dude, it's summer, man. It's hot. I'm like, what do you mean I gotta wear this hat?
I don't wear this much going hunting. What is this?
Dude, I was so I felt so encumbered, and it just did not feel like
it's not
sports.
a breathable fabric either. It's like, no, this is the warmest polyester junk you're gonna have to wear. Well, I was just gonna say, in baseball, I found like I knew the rules of baseball basically, but I found that all I had to do, I was so inexperienced in playing baseball that I was good at hitting because I wouldn't overthink the pitcher. And like, there's this thing where, the really good players were really not that great at hitting a lot of times because they're just overthinking. I'm like, I'm just watching the ball. If I think I can hit it, I'm going to swing. And I did. And I would almost every time at least get on first base. And my coaches were ecstatic with that. So
I mean, that's huge in baseball. I mean, it's like chess. That's what I've learned. Playing baseball is like chess. It is so tactical and so strategic, so much more than I knew until I started like playing the game and trying to learn the game. Initially, I was thinking like, dude, this thing, like I'm standing out here in the outfield. I mean, I was always an outfielder, right? Because I was a soccer player that could run really fast.
Yeah.
And wasn't super coordinated with my hands, right? So put him in the outfield and he'll run from, one side to the other to catch the fly ball like once a game.
Yeah.
And then as I started to learn the game a little bit more, I thought, oh my gosh, one person getting on base every time and having some predictability is huge in baseball. And anyhow, I've enjoyed getting to know another sport, but it has definitely been a major learning curve for me. And I think we're gonna get back into the it's not been happening the last couple of years, but maybe we will. So you're gonna coach basketball. That's some of the sports you did kind of growing up, and baseball and basketball is what you played. What about like hobbies?
Oh, well,
what were you into?
I mean, I loved playing guitar. I was in a little band whenever I in high school. We weren't very good, and so that ended fairly quickly. But nothing cool. Like, I liked video games and stuff, but a lot of my hobbies as I grew up just faded away, but probably for the better in a lot of ways. Like, I think of video games in particular. Like, one of my favorite things I've always done is I loved writing fiction. And I found that in my early adult life that I was playing video games, not a ton. Not, people have a problem with video games. There's a lot of like people just have a problem. They can't stop. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I know this could be a big addiction, and I could be writing something. I want my dream in life, even now, is like I want to be this novelist. At some point in my life, I want to just be a novel. And I don't know if I'll ever really get there, but I knew like I could be writing right now. And your great writers weren't distracted by all the little things that we're distracted with today. I mean, I guess Elon Musk might be an exception, Mr. Top #1 in Diablo in the world, but I mean, he's got a lot of people working for him. We don't have that luxury, I don't think. But
I don't understand, if I'm honest. Like how he can be.
True.
I mean, I don't know that it's true. I heard that it was true, but
it probably. Who knows? Yeah.
The amount of work he has to do. I don't care if he's got people working for him. I mean, the more people you have working for you, the more problems you have to solve.
That's true. Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're obligated to be in an office, right? Pushing papers, but you're certainly not just bored.
Yeah. I've been in a position where I had people working under me, not for me necessarily. And I honestly, I don't think I'd be a very good boss. Maybe one of these days we'll start a business that'll require employees. I don't know, but we talk about a lot of times just doing our content, like, maybe we should hire somebody to help us edit or hire somebody to do this. And like, I think about all the things that we do, and I feel like I can't let go of any of it.
Mm,
And that's a sign of a really good leader, is choosing the people well
mm.
to manage the things that you don't need to manage, and then trusting them to do that, and then dealing with it when they're not doing that. And I just don't, maybe I don't know if I'm a good leader in that regard.
Hey, well, this
Um,
basketball coaching gig is going to be a great experiment, right? You're
oh
going to be able to
gosh,
figure out what's working and what's
I
not.
feel bad for the kids in this experiment. Like, bad form. Come on, you don't dribble
Oh,
with two hands.
that's so good, dude. It's
Go
going to be
run
so fun.
laps.
You're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it. So right now you guys are doing all of your own editing and considering hiring an editor. Never had somebody. Yeah. What were we on here? We're talking about video games. We're talking about hobbies. But I
I
am
could go all
interested in the
over the
business.
place. I have a hard time staying focused on one thing too. So
No, that's great, and I kind of assumed we would do that, and I'm happy about it. I want to come back to the business and entrepreneur stuff because I actually had that
yeah,
written down and definitely want to talk about that. So we'll drop a pin in that. But we're jumping into some of your hobbies. I play video games. I guess so. We have a 7-year or 6.5-year age delta between the two of us.
hmm
And for me, some of the big games that dropped were like Halo, right? So that was
yeah,
like, dude, Halo dropped and like the world stopped. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna play some Halo. And I wanted to talk about video games, and I wanted to talk about this idea of like an addictive personality. Have you ever
yeah.
heard this? How do you feel about that?
What do you mean?
You ever heard of somebody say, or someone talking about how like I have an addictive personality, or I have an addictive like I get addicted to things no matter what they are. Have you heard this before?
Yeah. I mean, you hear people say it in passing, and I don't know if that's a psychological thing. I don't. I think it could be. I think it's a dangerous thing to say because you could be using it as a crutch or as an excuse, to then let yourself get into the things that either you shouldn't be getting into or should be limiting yourself on.
100%.
Um,
I agree with you.
and so I do think. I mean, I think there's some legitimacy to that. Of course, I mean, alcoholism is a real thing, and it's a real problem that people have a really hard time with. And there's a lot of things we could talk about, but at the same time, I think it could be, if people jump on it, they hear, "Oh, I have an addictive personality." Well, okay, have you tried limiting yourself? And if it's not working, have you tried having somebody to help you
Mhm.
work through that? So I guess it could go. It kind of depends on the person, you know.
100%.
And we talk about video games, like those same friends that I was in high school with, that I mentioned earlier, and they went off to college. I went to college, um, and it really anticipating getting together with those friends again, just really super stoked about hanging out with them all the time. And I found a group of guys who were completely addicted to World of Warcraft
Mm,
and Halo specifically.
mhm.
Halo kind of
Oh, yeah.
jogged that memory. And for somehow I just missed that
Mm.
train, I guess. And they suddenly weren't my friends anymore. And
Wow.
they were all just in their little groups. All they did was play video games. Like, all they did. And I'm like, well, I want to like go hang out in the quad, throw frisbees and stuff. This isn't what I thought I was going to be getting into. And yeah, it was really sad to me. So, I mean, I guess that kind of also, I could see, man, I saw people. We talk about World of Warcraft. I saw guys who had put in over a year's worth of playtime
Oh my gosh.
into that game. And I'm like, that is a full year. Not of I've been playing this for a year. It's I've been playing this on the clock 365 days or more. And I'm like, what could you have accomplished in that time?
That's so
You know?
crazy.
Somehow
I
he still passed college. I don't really know.
I know a lot of people that passed college that had very similar stories, and I won't get into that too much. But the reason I ask is that, and I love your answer, and I totally agree. And for the record, right? Because I'm just going to get messages of people that think that I don't
You
believe
got to have the
in
blanket
addiction,
statements. Yeah.
right? Yeah, like addiction is a big deal. I
Of
totally get
course.
that. I'm not, uh, you know, um, very very important. Talking to a psychologist, working on it, going to rehab. That is all very real.
No, we are certainly not experts on this. Yeah.
No, but the addictive personality thing, I do feel like I relate to that a little bit. And here's the way I would describe it. In video games specifically, I never grew up a video game person. So in middle school, even through high school, I played some video games, but I was not like, my mom was not coming downstairs and saying, please go outside. Like that wasn't happening. It was if there was outside stuff to do, I was doing it. If there was inside, it was just where are the people? That's where I wanted to be. And so if the people were playing video games, so was I. Now, more recently, and I'm happy to admit this because I think it helps feed into this idea really well, and that COVID happens, and the business that I do own a business, and I have staff, and it's I think you would be an excellent leader, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I think if people think they're going to be an excellent leader, oftentimes those people end up becoming the like lunatic, run the 6-year-olds down the court doing suicide.
Ego in leadership, that's for sure.
But it's so I think that's a great sign, right? That humility is a great sign. But the business that I operate is a corporate event space, right? So we work with Fortune 100 and 500 companies that want to take their businesses, strategic, planning teams, groups offsite, and we own a couple buildings in Cincinnati, and they utilize our space for high-level executive meetings. We also do consumer research and innovation, but those things kind of working in tandem is how we operate our business. So the primary function of our business, if you really boil it down, is a gathering space. So when the pandemic happens, I'm selling gathering space. Like that's, I mean, you can imagine where I'm going with this. Yeah. So I went from, record year to zero. And when I'm saying zero, I mean, I had a month of a business with staff where I did $0 in sales. I don't know if people can really comprehend that, but that's like, not just like your salary goes away, but like your salary goes away and you owe a bunch of things. Like it's a crazy world. And so we were feeling it. Not to mention I had a baby, right? So we had our what was once our youngest, Ray, was born, and it was a weird time. And I had some friends reach out to me because I was alone and I was home and I was going through some really challenging stuff and constantly being triggered by all the people that were like, we're just really thankful for this time to be home with my family, and I actually got a raise. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, we are not the same.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we're good now. So I'm allowed to laugh at it and make jokes about it. But the friends reached out to me. They brought an Xbox to my house, right? And they're like, Joey, just get on with us, just hang out with us. And we're playing this new game. It came out. It's called Fortnite. And I was like, dude, I don't want to play video games. I was like, I have zero interest in that. And they were like, okay, but please just play with us. I got on and I was terrible. And I hated it. And I just got destroyed. And it was like, I'm playing this game. And I could tell that I was just like the weak link in this, like, it's like a battle royale video game. And very quickly, with not having the mission of my work to really focus on, I was like watching YouTube videos. I was waking up at 5 a.m. I was practicing like in my basement. I mean, it's really absurd what I was doing. And in like a couple of months, I was like playing ranked play. I was like, dude, we were all in. We were all in for Fortnite. And I got better than all my friends like really quickly. And again, not proud of this. Like it's a very unvaluable skill that I have today, which I'm sure I wouldn't be good at it anymore. But I remember when the business started to pick up again, right? And I was unbelievable at Fortnite for someone that's, a father of 3 in the suburbs of Cincinnati, Ohio. But I had this moment where it clicked, and I thought, what if I applied the same passion and discontentment for the things that I'm doing in life that I did for this ridiculous video game, right?
Yeah.
What if I utilize this kind of like, I'm using air quotes now, to like this addictive personality? And you said it best, right? You were like, people put a year. I didn't put a year in. Okay, they put a year into World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I've never played World of Warcraft. I think it's like a PC game, or it used to be, and it's like a what do you call that? MMO.
Yeah, MMO.
I don't even know what that stands for.
Massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
There you go.
MMORPG, I believe is what it is.
Yeah. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. And and that's what I did. And I was like, hey, if I want to run my business super well, if I want to be an amazing father, if I want to invest in my health and fitness, I need to go like research, find inspiration, like plagiarize people that are doing it better than me, right?
Yeah.
And I started doing a lot of those things, and I found it super powerful. And yeah, the idea of like, what if you put that year's worth of time? That's played time. That's insane. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Played time.
Well, I mean, it sounds like we went through the exact same thought process too. But I mean, mine went in a different direction. It wasn't quite, for a business, but it was into writing. And
Yeah.
I wrote like 20 fiction books and self-published it, and was able to use that to, feed my family for like a year and a half, which, it wasn't any kind of massive success by any stretch of the imagination. But on top of that, I was able to I got into creating video, and um, spent years working on that, got into weddings, trying to start a business doing that, which really was just giving me the skills to learn video editing,
Mm.
and which video is what obviously has ended up working so far. And yeah, so it's kind of like it's the same sort of journey, where you just put all your efforts into the things that truly matter. Because the other way I look at it too is, it may be cliched, but I look at it as the deathbed concept. It's like, if I'm at my deathbed, will I rather have said I spent 365 days on this video game, or 365 days trying to write fiction, or spending time with my kids, or getting better at video work for my business or whatever? Like, even if those things aren't successful, I mean, you also have to measure success differently too. Like, I consider the book successful because we were able to live on it for a time.
Yeah.
And I consider Really Very Crunchy successful, and it may crash and burn next year. I have no idea, but I'll still look at it as successful. And it's okay if the things you pursue don't end up the way you hope that they do, because you still become a better person for what you're doing, and you're
Mm-hmm.
still learning skills as you go. The thing is, that's part of it, is learning skills. You don't know what skills that you're learning today, or what they're going to help with later. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of my stuff, a lot of the video stuff that I learned to do, I started doing weddings for free to make extra money. We weren't making any money where I was working. I was a journalist. Um, and I just put out there, like, I'm going to try to learn video and do weddings. Like, and I was doing weddings for free. I started researching on YouTube how to get these perfect shots, how to do lighting, which, you don't look at my lighting right now. I look very pasty. Um, you can't blame me. It's the webcam. But and I just really, that really was important to me. Even writing, you start to, yes, it helped feed my family for a year and a half or whatever, but it also gave me the idea of how to put together a story, how to hook someone, which I use elements of what I did in writing and what I do today with Really Very Crunchy. I
Mm-hmm.
use elements in what I did with wedding videography and what I do today with Really Very Crunchy. And, you know, you never know what you're learning and what you're like putting a lot of effort into, if it's not if you don't end up in the goal if you don't end up with achieving the goal that you set out to accomplish, then you still might be creating skills for something else that's even better. I didn't say that very
100%.
eloquently, but
Hey, to articulate what you said differently, because I love it so much. It's like a tuition payment. So
Yeah.
whenever you do something in life where you're aspiring to achieve a goal and you don't quite make it how you envisioned it,
Yeah.
I often call that a tuition payment. And why do I call it tuition payment? Because you're learning something, you're growing, you are excelling as a human being. There's almost no possible way you're going to go after something like you did with writing, right? And fail, or it wasn't a huge success, or call it whatever you want to call it, right? I don't think any of the things you've done have been failures.
Sure.
But if you said, hey, the words you use, crash and burn, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it looks like for something to crash, to crash and burn. I can tell you that when COVID happened, or the pandemic happened, and the government was saying that no more than 10 people can gather in a single place, and I was selling gathering space, it felt like I was crashing and burning. So
that's got to be awful.
but
Like,
dude,
wait, don't do this to me.
oh my gosh, I felt like a bootlegger in
Oh
Prohibition
man.
times. It was crazy. I would get like phone calls, and they'd be like, in theory, if I I might have a
Talking in
group.
code.
Yo, dude, like if I wanted to bring people together, like, and I wanted to maybe pay you for that, do you do that? I'm thinking like, I'm like, Janice, I've been working with you for like 8 years. Of course I do that. And they'd be like, okay, well, maybe we'll call you. I'd be like, okay. Go back to like
Our
watching YouTube
gathering space
videos.
is now an underground cellar. It is not where anybody can actually find it.
We constructed a system of tunnels. Yeah.
Oh, I hear you're looking for a gathering space. Yeah. I've got some
what you
keys
need.
in my coat over here.
Oh my
I'll text
God.
you the address.
We started selling alley space instead, right? Back behind buildings where no one could see.
Alley space.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. I love that. But yeah, the tuition payment, big deal. I love that. I think time in this addictive personality stuff. I think men deal with this a lot. That's why I like talking about it, and or are viewed this way. And I see so many guys, especially nowadays, the video game thing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the world that are jumping into video games and
becoming really good at it.
Really
like that's
good.
the other thing. It's like, so I know that if you're able to become really good at this really sophisticated and complicated thing,
yeah,
you could be really good at something else. And I understand the need for downtime and relaxing or whatever, but I have a little bit of a problem with somebody becoming really good at video games, because I feel like it's not really contributing anything to anybody. It's not really helping your family. Unlike, I guess, unless you're making a bunch of money on Twitch or something. I don't know.
100%. What's the return?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment, because I don't feel like you should be policing people's entertainment or whatever. But it's a weird one, because people don't necessarily have a goal in mind, and I think that's part of the problem too. I think people don't have any direction, and video games are easy. Watching Netflix all night, it's easy. It's easy to become good at, because it's hitting your dopamine over and over and over, and it keeps you going. Where if you're doing something difficult and something not as air quotes fun, writing a book at times is not very fun. Learning certain skills or whatever is not necessarily fun in the moment. It's the accomplishment afterwards. It's reaching a certain point and finishing something. And it's like you're delaying your dopamine hit for this massive dopamine hit at the end, where you hit the end on the story, or you hit the bullseye in archery or whatever. It's like it could be anything. But I definitely think there's room for people to have relaxation time, but I think we spend a lot of our time relaxing and chilling. But I know, but people have hard days too, it's I get it.
I'm not anti video games at all. I think I'm anti them becoming the only. And I'm going to leave it open ended like that.
Yeah,
like the only, like it's the only way I hang out with my friends. It's the only way I decompress. It's the only way that I can feel like I'm growing, because I can get better at this video game. And
that's exactly what happened with my college friends when I got to college. It was the only thing that they did. It's the only way they hung out. It's the only thing they talked about. And I quickly made different friends, which was unexpected.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The thing about video games that I find very attractive is that I feel like it's very, very easy for me to know how, that's a weird way to phrase that, but to get good at them. Does that make sense? I love to be good at something. I love to be feel like I'm growing, or feel like I'm excelling, or I'm ridiculously competitive, right? So I would not be the greatest basketball coach for those 6-year-olds. I'd probably be a good basketball coach for like high school kids if I knew how to play basketball, right?
Yeah.
Because then I'd be like, winning would be so important to me. And 6-year-olds, it's like, I would really have to tone that. I might be able to do it. I'd have to tone it back heavily, right? I'd
Well,
need
of
to be
course,
like,
at higher levels, it's your job to win. It is like your job is on the line to do that, and that's you would be very driven to do that with 6-year-olds. My job is to win. No, your job is to like teach them life skills and show them that adults are. I don't know.
there's a
You
Parks
can
and
listen
Rec
to your.
episode that's about this where I don't know if you ever watched it, but there's like Ron Swanson coaches a team, and then like Andy Dwyer, or is his name Andy? I don't remember. He coaches a team,
Uh-huh.
and one team's all about fun, and he's just like, dude, he's just running these kids, and they're just dominating, and it's hilarious. Anyhow, the idea though of like knowing how to get good at it, I believe in my heart there's such an opportunity for me to win, and that's where my major dopamine comes in, right? I knew that in Fortnite, if I practiced in the mornings and played without my friends, that when I got on with my friends at night, that I could just like run them ragged, and that was going to be fun for me. And then what ended up happening is I got so good, my friends didn't want to play with me, and then it just I blew the whole system up, which was probably for the best.
There's a weird competitive thing in being a social media content creator too, and I don't even mean with against other content creators, but almost against yourself,
Oh, yeah.
and which could be just as not healthy. And it's that like this video didn't perform well. It only got 100,000 views. Versus 3 million or something, and like you get that one that just hits, and it's like, oh yes, it's a win. It's such a win. And then and you're just competing with yourself over and over, and it can get unhealthy too if you. So I mean, we found both of us. We found that we sometimes we just have to post and then be done with it. Come back to it later if we need to respond to comments or something, but yeah, but I mean, that could be true in anything. You can go overboard in anything. You can get overboard in hunting, Joey.
That's so true. What I'll say is that defining winning helped me. What does winning mean? And like, is winning getting 10 million views on a video, right? Because and we're going to talk about the moon landing here in a minute, but like if there's a video that gets tons of views,
landing on the moon,
right? Or
it'd be nice if we did it one day. I'm kidding. Okay. Oh, man, I keep hitting the computer.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. For hunting, for me, I went to Newfoundland to go moose hunting recently, and I took a bow, which is very unorthodox, especially for Newfoundland where I went. Everyone hunts with a gun because it's more effective. You can shoot really far. It's much easier. And I looked at my wife. I looked at Elizabeth. Actually, I keep saying that like people don't know who she is. No one knows who I am. So I'm Joey, by the way. I looked at Elizabeth and I was like, hey, I want you to know that I fully plan on going on this trip and not being successful. And by successful, I mean not bringing home a moose. The success of this trip for me is that I'm going to go out there, work really hard. I've been training for this, and I'm going to give it everything I have to make this happen. Like I was like running, lifting, working out, shooting my bow every day. I was like, I show up at this place, I look at the guides, I'm like, you can bury me out there. I was like, I will hike until I die. And the person's like, oh Lord, I don't want to hunt with this guy, right? But like, I was so prepared, and winning was not bringing a moose home. Winning was doing everything I could to be successful. And I was not going to be like super depressed and upset and unfulfilled if I came home without it. And I think with social media, we feel that a little bit as well. With a smaller needle, but the you post something and you're like, or if you're we sell books, right? We sell things, and it's like it's so easy to put these, did this post work or not? And it's like you're at the whim of like algorithms and timing and climate and culture. It's crazy.
Well, as far as social media goes, it's a balance between really trying to figure out like, are you just trying to get a dopamine hit, or are you really trying to actually figure out what works as a business strategy? And it's kind of both, but it kind of one feeds the other in a way. And I'm not saying it's necessarily always healthy, but it is interesting to look at it from a business perspective. I'm like, well, this type of video just doesn't work, and it's for this reason or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting. So we're still going along kind of your journey of life here. We stopped at like hobbies. Take me now, fast forward. Obviously you and Emily at one point get married. When did you you, not you as a couple, but like you start to feel the urges or pressure, or like what was your gateway into, however you want to phrase it, the kind of crunchy space?
Well, it would have to when we got married. No, so it, that did start with Emily.
Okay.
Um, Mostly around having our first kid.
Mm.
Um, but a little things along the way. We were living in an RV for a year, and she had a friend, this Russian friend, who, I mean, we were just, I think Emily one time took her a birthday cake for one of her kids, and I I think I might be butchering this story, but the lady was like, "Oh, well, that's really nice of you, but this has, sprinkles all over it with food dye, and we don't really eat that." And so, just little things like that over time kind of spoke to her. Me, I'm like, well, guess more cake for me, So, um, and so over time, and especially as we got closer to having our first kid, she was really looking into a lot of these things, had a lot of friends, and the story she's told a lot on our podcast and in her book, was that she had a friend that she brought like a fairly, at least greenwashed clean soap to, like, um, I think it's like Myers or something. I don't know. And the girl looked at her and said, "Oh my goodness, this is actually so toxic." And and she felt so embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
And it was like to a baby shower or something like that. She said, "You should." I think it was like the Think Dirty app at the time, where they rate products on what's good and what's not. And anyway, so she's developing these ideas over time. And so with me, at first it was more of a, yeah, whatever. I've never been opposed to it. I know in our videos, we play off like I'm just this non-crunchy dad who just does these non-crunchy things behind my wife's back, stuff like. I mean, it's a joke, it's not real, it's fiction. That
Believe it
part
or
is
not.
fiction. Yeah. Despite what people think, you find in the comments, like, "I can't believe you would do this, you're such a jerk." Like, well, this isn't my real life. We don't have a camera crew walking around filming us all the time. This is scripted. This is
Oh my
a
gosh,
joke.
dude.
But no, in those terms, like when it comes to like better food and things like that, I've always just kind of gone along with it. And I was more like, yeah, sure, that makes sense, whatever. But over time, and especially with Really Very Crunchy itself, because actually Really Very Crunchy started with me just kind of thinking that all of the crunchy things that she did was just hilarious.
It
Like,
is.
this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous because we both come from this very normal background. Like,
Mm.
just normal being, you eat what I've heard people say, well, if it's in the grocery store, it's going to be good for you. They don't want you to they don't want to feed you bad things. It's fine. I was like, well, that's not how the world works. I'm sorry. It's
They
just
sell
not.
cigarettes at the store. Believe it or not.
Well, yeah. Very good observation there. I didn't think to say that. But yeah, and so it when we started Really Very Crunchy, I was not making fun of her, but just thought this is a golden opportunity for comedy videos. And I remember she had to write all the scripts. Now we kind of split it. It's more of a split sort of thing, and I help with the scripts more. Um, but she was writing all of them at the time because I didn't understand them. I would film her, and like, I don't really understand what you're saying, but this is hilarious, and it worked, and it, like, we kept getting views on them and stuff. And then over time, I started like actually thinking about all the things she was saying, and then I started asking her, "Is this stuff actually real?" And she's like, "Yeah, look at this, look at this." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this
Wow.
stuff is real." Like, but I mean, so me taking it more seriously was more around the Really Very Crunchy start, which was a few years ago. Before that was more so me just going along like, yeah, sounds good, whatever. You want me to wear wide toe box shoes? That's fine. I don't care. You know. I'm fine with it. I don't care if my toes are squished. It's fine. Either way. And so now I'm more, this makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, if you really look at the companies, like, I mean, look at the thing that's going on with Kellogg's right now, you know?
This is crazy.
It's, but it's always been there. They don't, it's, what's weird about that is that they put different ingredients into US food than they do other nations that don't allow, like, let's say food dye or whatever. That's strange to me. Like, obviously, that tells me you're just trying to make money
Mhm.
and you don't care about their health. Well, duh. I mean, it's cold cereal. Nobody's should think that that's a good option for food now. Like, but I wouldn't have thought that 4 years ago, you know.
It's
But
crazy. That
anyway,
I think you bring up a great point, and if you, it's more than likely that if you're listening to this, that you already follow really
you've
very
been
crunchy.
banning Kellogg's for years.
And you probably know about the Kellogg stuff. And you probably, if you don't, you should definitely go check it out because the videos are hilarious. But also, I think that you guys have been hitting on something, and it's really like one of the like pivotal issues that I see in the kind of man presence, the masculine presence of the, I'm gonna call it the crunchy space. You can call it intentional living. You call it, the real food journey. You call it whatever you want. But what is so common and typical, which is why you guys hit on it so much, and it is so funny, and people probably think that you are the problem when in reality you're like, listen, like we wrote this together,
Yeah.
right? Are you crazy? Like,
Yeah.
but there is this common through line where wife, mother, is hyper focused on intentional living, nourishing the family, maintaining a positive health and fitness for everybody in the family. And then there's just like this dad or husband that is just kind of like, I'm kind of, resistant or
Yeah.
like I don't really care very much. If I have to, fine. Where do you think that's like? How do you feel about that? Do you think that's true? Where do you see that?
Well, if you have and not everybody's in this situation, but if you have a situation similar to ours where she, for the most part, there were times where she wasn't, but for the most part was a stay-at-home mom, and I was going to work every day. I mean, her focus was the health and whatever benefited our family and our children, specifically, whether it's, exercise, diet, or social things, whatever, that's her focus. And my focus was like, how do I market air conditioners?
Yeah.
That's what I was in. I was a marketing guy for an air conditioning company. And so I mean, a lot of, if you're in those particular situations, which, I mean, let's be honest, a mother's nurturing spirit is going to be more focused on, well, what am I putting in my baby's body? And a
Mhm.
dad's more like, well, I mean, it's on the shelf, it's meant for kids, it's fine. And I think that's just and I'm not saying that that's true for everybody, but especially in a stay-at-home mom situation, you have different focuses. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm spending 8 to 9 hours a day talking about air conditioning. I don't have time. I don't have the brain space to talk about what what food dyes are in a kid's cereal. And so, I mean, I think that's probably more of a passive, like, why it's a little more passive. Some people, there's some guys who are completely opposed to it, but I think that's just more of a personality thing. Like, there's some more abrasive personalities that are like, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do, which isn't
Mhm.
healthy to begin with. Um, that's its own issue and problem. But as far as I just think it's different focuses, and especially, again, more of that nurturing versus, especially the baby stage and the little kid stage. Fathering is important. It definitely becomes more important as the kids get older, and the mother's portion for the little baby and what goes into their bodies and everything is obviously, that's just a natural way that life goes.
Mm.
And I mean, if you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you, but that's just how it is. But I mean, I think that's where it comes from. And again, especially with like stay-at-home moms. I mean, they're way more focused and can be more focused on that when the dad's going out and working.
What would you say a typical, I'm going to use this phrase because I haven't used it before, but I was thinking it just now. What would you say a typical crunchy gateway is for a man?
The wife.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't see too many married guys anyway coming to that on their own. Now you see I think there's, the single guys who live in the woods and are like doing Pilates, shirtless or whatever. They find it on their own somehow, I guess. I don't know where their gateway came in, but like I think for a lot of guys it's their significant other. And that might not be true. Maybe I'm just drawing from my own experience too much, but you don't, from my experience, you don't see it in guys very often that they're the ones that are like, but that might be changing now. I don't know, especially with like differences in what's going on with government and different things and these protests that are happening against these big companies like Kellogg's and stuff. I mean, maybe that'll change a little bit.
I think
but I definitely
RFK
think
Jr. maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes people think about those things more, and I think a lot more people are going to start coming to those decisions together as it hits more mainstream audiences too. But my gut reaction is that most of the time for guys, it's through their significant other. Yeah,
that's so good. I was thinking about this again on a run just because that's what I do, and I was like, what are the gateways of like real food for people? And for women, right? A lot of these are like sourdough, and for us, right? For Elizabeth, it was raw milk. Crazy little, but like we were having a lot of issues with feeding, and we needed to supplement for a baby, years ago, and we were flying through different formulas, landed on raw milk, and I was just like you. Elizabeth comes to me, she's like, hey, like, I don't know, right? Thinking about milk, but it's raw. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like,
yeah.
Okay. She's like, are you comfortable? She's like, it was like a really serious conversation.
Yeah.
She's like, are you comfortable if I feed our child raw milk? And I was like, what do you mean? Like from a cow? What, is there something wrong with it? She's like, no, it's not pasteurized. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I don't care. Do you think it's a good idea? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of data of like reasons why not. And I'm like, all right, well, I think you're going to make a good call, and I'm with you, right? It was very quick for me. I wasn't even like thinking about it. For me to get to a point where now I wanted to drink raw milk myself, it was a whole nother story, right? It was like, I would like look at it in the fridge and be like, you want me to drink that? I'm like, no way. I mean, I don't want milk regardless.
I was actually in the same boat. Like it felt a little like she's all about raw milk, and I'm like, what if it had a disease? We need to heat that milk up, right? It's fine. Like, no, it's way better. Okay, so I'm actually still a little bit like, I'm obviously okay with everybody drinking or whatever, but I'm not just like grabbing a glass of the raw milk yet. I'm still not quite to that. They are obviously.
Yeah.
I'll put in my coffee, little homemade pasteurization,
extra hot coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. I made it 212 degrees today, dear.
What was the easiest crunchy behavior for you to adopt on your own?
I mean, so I think it's probably food in general, just because an example of this, we started buying whole chickens from my sister who raised them. And I mean, the quality of the food is just, you go get something from Tyson, or whatever, chicken from the store.
Like, was this chicken the Hulk?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get something that your sister raised in her backyard and like with organic feed and like mostly worms on the ground or whatever. I don't know what chickens eat, but and then the quality difference was just crazy. And then I started seeing that in just about everything we were eating when we started introducing cleaner foods, and it's like, wow, this is way better. This is
Yeah.
much better quality than this other nasty processed stuff. And then, I mean, it just, I don't know if it's just over time, but processed foods, the more you start forcing yourself to look at labels. One of the things we did was, at the very early stages of all this, was that we were trying to eat things with less than 5 ingredients in them.
Mhm.
And that really opened my eyes to, like, why is all this other stuff in this? It doesn't
Mm.
need to be. When we start making our own crackers, it's like 3 ingredients, and they're really good. Like, I don't need the crackers that have 37 ingredients and they don't taste that good, you know? So it's probably food for me. The
Mhm.
short answer, food.
That's
But
so good, and I was, prying there because I'm on the search, right? I'm on the search of like what are the gateways for men, and I think that spouse absolutely is like the prime carrier, right? They're going to
yeah,
bring all of this to their husband, and it's like, what is it that's actually going to start to kind of move the needle in a direction of more healthy families and a more unified objective, right? You even said it, you said it perfectly. You were like, there's just some misalignment there, right?
yeah,
I'm selling air conditioners and I
yeah.
come home and it's like, quite frankly, I don't want to have to worry about all of this, which is probably the wrong way to think, right? But like,
Right, right, right.
but there is a desire there of coming home and feeling like I'm home now. I want to unplug. I want to turn off. And that's where a lot of the like, I don't ever get to turn off. Like these are these
Yeah.
classic arguments that we're all having on a regular
Trying to
basis, right?
get to year 2 on my video games. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but
good.
I think another gateway potentially is like fitness, of
Mm.
course. I think fitness is another, but that could also lead you down a weirder path. People, that's not always healthy. I mean, obviously being fit and exercising and stuff is healthy. But I also, exercising regularly will get you to thinking about what you put into your body.
100%.
But it also can get you to put things into your body that you just don't need to be putting into your body. And so it could go either way. It depends on who you're working out with, really.
Mm.
Or, but I do think that that's another potential gateway, is just like, okay, I want to be physically fit. What can I put into my body that will help facilitate that? What's going to help me run farther? What's going to help me lift better? What's going to help
Yeah.
me? It's obviously not the processed food. Like, any guy who's into fitness at all, they know, and then they might not be very good at their self-control, but they know that just a lot of processed food's not going to do it for them. They know it's
Mhm.
not going to help them see the results they want to see. So I see that as another potential gateway too.
I totally agree with that. There's an account. Have you ever heard of the guys? They have an Instagram account called Raw Milk and Deadlifts. Have you heard of these dudes?
No,
Oh, dude, they're hilarious. You should
really?
look them up.
Okay.
Yeah, they have like the hats they sell that are like make raw milk again.
Oh,
And I'll never forget it, dude. I'm like super sensitive to like being political on
yeah,
shows and on Instagram, and I just think that it's just not our game. Anyways,
yeah,
Elizabeth's like, I love this hat. I'm like, yeah, please don't post a bunch of pictures with you wearing. People are gonna like just see the red hat and then like get
yeah,
all bent out of shape, and
yeah.
I maybe overreacted, but they're super cool dudes, and they're called Raw Milk and Deadlifts, and they're like these farmer guys that just lift weights and drink a bunch of raw milk,
Yeah.
and they're great dudes. The one thing that I felt, I don't know if it was a gateway, more so than or more, it was more of like for me, a good like prep course. Like it was
Mhm.
almost like getting me ready for entering into the crunchy, intentional, like healthy space, and it was hunting, because hunting you could say is like possibly a crunchy behavior, maybe,
Oh,
but
sure.
like
Yeah.
it's almost like if you are hunting and going after your own food, it's like, well, why are you doing that? Well, if you're a trophy hunter, maybe it's not preparing you super well. But if you love the preparation and you love the work and like mercifully taking an animal and harvesting it to nourish your family, and that means something to you,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you can start to see how that can translate into other areas of your life.
Sure.
And so when it's like, hey, we want to reduce the amount of ingredients that we're putting on the table, right, for our family, right? Less processed foods, less packaged things, right? We're going to ditch the dino nuggets. We're going to go to the chickens that we find from, or that we source from our sister or our brother or whoever. I think it helps you to feel that a little bit more, the power and the amount of truth that can be found within the space. And it's not just like this trendy, like there's science here, right? So I think hunting, I think fitness for sure. And I agree with everything you said. The food one was interesting. I haven't heard that one. And I actually agree with that a lot. I think there's a lot of proof, like in the pudding, if you will, when you start to actually try foods that are properly sourced, you can absolutely taste a difference, right? You have to taste it, like the Hulk chicken, right? It's like the chicken breast is ginormous. It's unfathomably big. It's like, what happened here? And then you eat, some of this other chicken, and you're like, oh my gosh, there is something so much different about it. And no, I absolutely love that. The other trait that I wanted to lean into, I'm gonna. You had a video about this, and I had literally written it down before you and I jumped on here, and then a video. It was probably, it might be your most recent. Maybe no, you posted today. I don't know, but like it was. You guys are driving in the car. You're going to a picnic, and dude, it's so funny. And the kids are like, they spot a gas station that dad took them out for pizza, right? And it's you're implying, and it's obvious, right, that this pizza was like gas station pizza, right? And it's like just the raunchiest. It's got to be like on a conveyor belt for 4 hours, just terrible pizza. And there's this desire I see in myself, and I think other dads would relate to this, that when I come home or when I get to be there with my kids, I don't get as much time around the children. And so oftentimes I want to come in and like bring a whole lot of energy and fun. And so sometimes that means towing that line, right? And that's why this video is so funny, right? Is because it's exactly that. It's like, hey kids, I'm gonna take you out for the best food in the world. It's this pizza at this gas station. And kids, they're like, woo, dad's so fun. We're gonna have so much fun with dad. And you see this all the time. We see the posts all the time where women will post or share with us or message us and be like, every time I go out of town, my husband takes the kids to the store and he's just buying cereals and ho-hos and sodas and the waffles and I get back into town. It's just like, it's almost as if like he doesn't care what I do, right?
Yeah.
Is there a balance there of intentional living and fun we as dads need to strike? Am I just like totally out of bounds? Like should we give that up? Like, what do you think about that kind of?
I mean, it kind of depends on what you're doing. I mean, if junk food is a hard line in your family, and especially if it's something your wife is passionate about, there's a lot of other things that you could do that's fun.
100%.
But there's not a lot of things that we do separately, if that makes sense. Like in terms of activities, there's not really, and this may be just because we're weird, but there's not a lot of things that we do that, oh, we only do this with dad, or we only do this with mom, other than like the normal things, like she goes to like mom homeschool groups and stuff. Obviously I don't go to that, but like within the realm of like, what are fun things we can do with dad? For us, it's like, well, things don't change just because mom's gone. It's because that then puts a negative light on mom. Like mom
100%.
comes home and then it's not as fun anymore. Well, that's not really what you want to teach your kids, and especially if she doesn't, like, if you're doing it behind her back, that would be weird too. You don't want to do that. That's extra weird. But like, you don't want to send a message to your kids that mom's gone or dad's gone, we're having fun now. And especially if dad's gone, mom doesn't get to do the fun things. But I think you make those decisions as a family. Like, if you have to get gas station pizza, neither side makes a big deal about it. I don't know. That's maybe a weird way to answer that question, but
I think it's a great way to answer it.
But yeah, I don't think that maybe you can do plenty of special things that are within the realm of the values that you're trying to uphold in your family, whether that's eating clean. Like we have this discussion a lot about grandparents, like it's real. We had a video today about she's taking the kids over to the grandparents, and then they're like, oh cool, she has a Grampy has a Alexa with a screen on it, and they let us hit the popcorn button on the microwave. Yay!
Oh my gosh!
And then she closes the door and says like, "Oh nope, never mind. We're just gonna stay home." So if you're doing that with your spouse, that gets a little weird, like because I think you're sending a wrong message to your kids. When it comes to grandparents, it's still the same sort of struggle, but at least there's that distance to where it's a different relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And finding that balance with the grandparents, that's way harder, I think. Now, if you're not on the same page as a couple, like what is the balance of what can we do? You have to set up what are fun things you can do with mom, what are fun things you can do with dad if you have to do things separately, and be intentional about those things.
Mm-hmm.
And keep it within the values of your family, whether it's food, activities, whatever. If you're going to watch a movie and you don't like a lot of screen time, well, you don't just, if mom's away for the weekend, you don't just spend 12 hours watching a movie. You know what I mean? And so I think, yeah.
I dig that. I think that the point that you made that I love a lot is there's a lot of these. I almost wish that when I hear this, that these couples would sit down together and have coffee and like talk about what their objectives and goals are collectively, like together as a husband and wife, as a team that are in this together. This child rearing thing, they're doing it together, right?
Yeah.
And there's sometimes, I like what you said, right? With grandparents, it's like a different separate relationship. And sometimes that's where the issue is that
that's usually
like
where
dad comes home and is like, I'm dad, right? I'm different than mom, and we're gonna do different things with dad because I'm dad. And there's this imbalance that occurs when that happens. And I think that there's some major alignment that can occur when you kind of plan and talk through what your objectives are as a family, how you want to raise your kids, what you define success looking like for your children as they grow.
Yeah.
And fun can definitely be a part of that. And we have an easy line in that it's, there is junk food that is crunchy food. Like you can go spend $15 to $18 on a box of cereal that is still junk food, but it may be made with 3 or 4 ingredients. But it's like, if you're eating that for breakfast, all you're going to do is just have like a major glucose spike and like crash, right? It's like, it's not like it's nourishing your body, but we can still buy fun foods and do it in a way that's appropriate. And like, again, we had a guy on recently. We were talking about the Siete buyout and whether or not that's a good thing. It's like, hey, you know what? Like, if the ingredients stay relatively clean, this is still just a fun junk food anyway, right? Like, we're not talking about something that's going to be hopefully changing the way your life is, because there's a lot of foods that you should probably be eating that are nourishing your body. And then if you're going to buy chips, like it's chips, right? You're buying potato chips at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of been our whole argument with the Kellogg's thing. It's like, that's where we don't quite understand where it makes sense to go after Kellogg's exclusively. Go after Kellogg's, I think it's fine, but exclusively, they own 30% of the market share. You know who else owns 30%? General Mills. They also
PepsiCo.
Yeah, well, just cold cereals, and then Post.
Totally.
It's like 18%. It's like, and also cold cereal is terrible for you. I don't care if it's crunchy.
It's like, so bad. Yeah,
like you should actually be looking into just junk food. Are you gonna boycott Kellogg's and then turn around and give your kid a fruit roll up? Sorry, just a little tangent here, but I'm a little passionate about this now. I think it's great to try to go after companies to give us cleaner food, but that hill to die on is a strange one to me. But again, I'm going off in a different direction.
But it's a good direction, because you're identifying a great point in that we can battle all day long about the discrepancy in ingredients that we see from one country to the other, which is, it is strange. You said that before. I mean, I agree. Yeah. It's like, strange. It's strange that one country can have something and another one can't, and we don't talk about why they would want to ban this and why we're going to be okay with it. Like, let's at least just have the discussion. Why would we ban something in one country?
Well, it clearly sounds like a money thing. Like, it's probably cheaper to use food dye than it is to color it with carrot or whatever they use. I don't know.
And there's these guiding principles of life that are, you know, eating food and all food being like all calories aren't the same, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the biggest problem that I have with Kellogg's is that when the economy and groceries were going up, he came out and made a statement, something along the lines of like, hey, if you want to save money, you know, start replacing a meal a day with cereal. And I was like, okay, I looked at Elizabeth and I was like, you know, just the two of us were talking. I was like, do you think that this CEO of Kellogg's is going to replace a meal of his day with cereal? I was like, because I guarantee you he's not.
Well, do you also think the CEO of Kellogg's is going to come out and say replace a meal a day with just some eggs?
No, he's not going to do that
for him either.
It wouldn't be, right? But like that's the problem. It's like we're gonna make food desirable and seem like a good option in any regard.
What
as
kind
a meal
of
replacement.
Message is that anyway? Like, I know this stinks. Get some cereal. Buy my product. I really want you to buy my product in this terrible time. Line my pockets, please.
I know that
if you don't mind.
Your finances are in trouble, but like, let's just go ahead and trash your health too. Yeah. Like, let's just really round this thing out. Let's really hit rock bottom.
I know you guys are having a really tough time. Could you buy my cereal? I'm sort of. I really want another yacht.
Dude, and the worst part is he made it sound like he was there for you, right? Like,
oh yeah,
hey, it's
I'm
so
your
hard,
friend.
And we've got really cheap cereal. So, listen,
Which
I know it's hard.
Actually, that true. If you. Okay, I think we could all agree. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not crunchy enough to know this information through to the end. But I think we could agree that even the cheapest eggs are probably better for you than, the best cereal, cold cereal. I could be wrong on that, but
I mean, just macronutrients. It's got to be, right? I mean, at least you got.
I would think so.
Some kind of form of protein and fat going on in there.
And my point on that is too that it. There's this big thing about eggs becoming really expensive. Well, there's still some eggs you could get that are cheaper than cereal plus milk at the volume that you get it. And it's better for you. So, like, that's kind of, I don't know. Just replace your whole meal.
Insane.
A whole meal with Kellogg's.
I'm like, let's go after that issue. Like, I don't know where that stems, but let's go after that issue. Because, like, you clean up the cereal ingredients. I hope what doesn't happen. Like, let's say they say, oh man, you know what, you guys, listen, you bring up some good points.
I would love to see a company do this. Guys, you have a good point. If they start doing that, you need to watch out. They're about to sneak one over on you.
We've now converted all of our cereals to we got rid of the food dyes. And it's like, is there going to be like celebration in the real food community? Because like, I really hope not. Because
Yay, Kellogg's! We're replacing 2 meals a day with Kellogg's now.
I don't know what cereals they make, but I'm just imagining everybody rushing out and getting like a bunch of Lucky Charms. Like they're not colored.
General
now.
Mills. We're not boycotting them. Remember, we're boycotting Fruit Loops.
Okay, Fruit Loops. So hey, now Fruit Loops are all squared away. Let's go get a ton of Fruit Loops because man, you know what? They cleaned up their act. And
then everybody's like, this doesn't taste as good. I liked it better with the dyes.
I hate this cereal.
This tastes more like carrots now.
Dude, did you watch Seinfeld growing up?
We did back in the day. Yeah, we actually in college I owned all the DVDs.
Do you remember the non-fat yogurt episode?
Oh man. So I have people shooting clips to me about Seinfeld. Like, do you remember this? And I'm like, I don't. And I don't remember. I think there's just too many great episodes.
So the episode is that there's this like discovery of this frozen yogurt place, right? Yeah. And like everyone's going there all the time. And like Jerry, Elaine, Newman, George, they're like it's almost like the coffee shop now. They're not going there; they're going to the frozen yogurt place. And there's like a moment where Kramer busts in the door and looks at Jerry and like steps back. He's like, "Man, you're gaining weight. Like you're getting fat." And Jerry's like jumps on the scale, gets all bent out of shape, and he's like, they get the yogurt tested. It turns out there's fat in it, even though a lot of this is
right.
Again, is that a problem? Probably not. But
Yeah.
They changed the formula to now be properly non-fat. They were saying they're non-fat, but they actually weren't.
Yeah.
And everyone hates it. And it's like, dude, it's, oh my gosh, it's so funny. But it's exactly what I think would happen, right? They take all the food dyes out of Fruit Loops.
Predicted real life. Yeah.
And all it's really going to do is make a bunch of people upset, right?
Yeah.
Because hopefully the crunchy people aren't going to rush out and just stock their cabinets with Fruit Loops as soon as.
I mean, you would think. I mean, the crunchy people aren't. It's the people. And I'm not putting anyone down by any means. It's not. We're not drawing lines here or anything.
No.
There's the groups that tend to be doing that. It seems are more so the not as crunchy group. Waking up to some health ideas, and that's great. Maybe that's their gateway, I guess, into a more healthy eating life, I guess. But you would think that the real crunchy people, we'd made a video about this, the real crunchy people have been boycotting Kellogg's for the last decade. So.
It's like the gateway for an attorney, right? Is a food dye lawsuit for Kellogg's. It's like, dude, this is how we got into the real food game. Oh my gosh, I love it. There was a video that you did that I thought was so funny, and I think it's worth talking about because it does kind of get into this weird influencer world. And I'm always fascinated to hear people's experiences as they're kind of going through this, and you guys absolutely are. And you posted this video that I thought was outstanding, and it was you guys were at a museum or something, and you were looking at I don't know, but Emily looks at it and goes, "That's something along the lines of that's the spacecraft they say landed on the moon." Yeah. Even just that quick little phrase in there,
and she says, "That's what they say."
Oh yeah, there you go, dude. It's so good, and the video did excellent, I'm sure, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that there were so many people that were ticked off, right? That you would this propaganda, how dare you say this? And it's so funny. Elizabeth is I don't want to speak for her, but she's almost she's got enough of a curiosity about the moon landing to where she's you know what? Yeah, I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
But I would love to know your guys' experience making that video on the back end, and also how powerful almost ticking a bunch of people off can be for an influencer. It's almost like a good thing, right?
Yeah, well, if you don't want to read the comments, it can be a good thing. It's good for your numbers. I think that video did 11 million views on Instagram or something. There's kind of two parts to this. One thing that made it blow up was that the display that we were looking at, I think we were in DC or something, and the display we were looking at, it wasn't the lander. It was the actual thing that was orbiting, is the orbiter of the moon. And our kid says, "Hey mama, did that thing really land on the moon?" And she says, "That's what they say." So part of what you have with that video is all of the guys, it's mostly 30, 40 something aged men, really, really have a need to tell people what they know. Well, actually, that's not the lander. So it didn't land on the moon. So, but when you get thousands upon thousands of those comments, it keeps pushing the video out. So that helped a lot. So, but there's also the anger part of it too. But I just loved it because it was an accidental. There's this thing where a lot of people will get something wrong on a post on purpose to try and get a bunch of comments to people. We didn't do it intentionally. Actually, the display that we saw, it was talking about this landed on the moon, whatever. It wasn't incorrect based off of what we were reading on the display. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. The sentiment was the same, but we were just a little bit wrong enough to get thousands of people to tell us how wrong we were. And so that pushed it out a lot. But on the other hand, there was that other side of people that just absolutely hates anything that questions anything. And the moon landing's a big one. We've talked about on our podcast, how we feel like in terms of comedy, the moon landing of all the conspiracy theories should be fair game. It
is fair
doesn't
game,
really
100%.
hurt anybody. I mean, if somebody doesn't believe in the moon landing, I mean, am I like, gonna change your life at all? You'll be okay. It'll be fine if we didn't land on the moon. It's okay. I'm not saying we did or didn't. I don't care. To me, it's funny. Like, but to me, the main argument we get is like, well, it would have cost more to film the moon landing than it would have been to actually go. I'm like, you have no idea how money works, do you? Yeah, because I mean, I'm pretty sure it would cost a lot more to actually go to the moon than to get Stanley Kubrick out there on a set and film the moon landing. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying don't give me that argument because that's crazy.
Dude, so my favorite argument is, I don't know, there's people that like dig deep into the rabbit hole of the moon landing. And I think it's a fun one.
And they should be able to. That's an innocent one. Come on, it's not hurting anybody.
I think so much in comedy should be on limits. That we're getting. It's because like you're trying to bridge a gap for people to have helpful and healthy conversation, right? And so, like I think politics need to be in comedy much more often. I think all the things that are threatening our unity as a nation should be in comedy, because we need to lighten these things up. People need to be able to have a bridge to where they can openly discuss something. They should be able to laugh themselves and laugh with other people. That should be very normal. And there are people that are hyper offended by the moon landing. And now
I don't understand that. I don't get that.
The best I can understand about like where that is rooted, because I think my dad is one of these people. I think if you're listening, Dad, I'm sorry, but I think you're one of these people. I think that you and people of your generation are the folks that gathered around that TV that felt like it was a milestone for our nation, and that like you now had this like inner like, in my brain, in my heart, I believe I can go do something, and you use that as fuel to go do things in life, which is awesome. And I'm not gonna, I don't want to take that away from anybody, because like that's a big deal, and you can probably credit some of your life to
it was all a lie, Dad. You should have given up a long time ago.
But like, there is a major fact of like, how many times have you been told, and at least I used to be told this all the time, like you grab your phone and you're like, this phone has 10 times the computing power that we use to land on the moon.
Yeah.
I'm like, so shouldn't landing on the moon be easy now?
Yeah.
Like,
so you think,
or I'm like, again, I don't know, but like people keep saying that. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe that's all like a conspiracy too. I don't know. But like, why have we not landed on the moon again with really good cameras and gotten awesome footage? And like, why have there not been any like YouTubers that are like on the moon creating content? Like, how has that not happened? Like, if we have cell phones that are more powerful than all the computers we use to land something on the moon,
well, there's a simple answer there.
So anyhow, I haven't gotten down the road.
Maybe we didn't go.
I will say, as someone that wants to believe that we landed on the moon, because I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think it's open for discussion, and I can't prove that we landed on the moon. So I don't know.
I mean, so here's where I fall on it. It's like I'm okay with anybody who says, yeah, we landed on the moon. I'm okay with people who say, no, we didn't. It doesn't make sense that you can be so certain in either direction, honestly. Where I land is there was definite reason to make sure we were there, whether we were there or not.
100%.
The thing against Russia and just trying to be the first in it. It was a very inspiring moment for our country and something we definitely needed. At the same time, I don't care. I expect there to be shady business. I mean, it's pretty widely accepted now that there was some shady business going on with the JFK assassination. I mean, that's almost indisputable. Almost. And if those things are happening, and if that it's not implausible that they didn't. I think another plausible idea is that maybe they went to the moon, but they actually filmed it in a different location because they couldn't actually do what they did on the moon. Like, so I don't care. Like, don't come at me, please, about this. This is not a passion thing for me. What I just don't understand is why people are so offended by it. And
Yeah.
I guess they don't like that it puts you in the camp of I miss the days where conspiracies were fun.
Mm-hmm.
Conspiracies used to be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's just a new one every day. And if you think something negative, and if you think something negative against the government these days, which is just weird to me, you're anti-science, you're anti everything. And you should be canceled because you question something. Because you question something. And I'm not a denier. I'm not
Yeah.
a moon landing denier at all. I am a why can't we question things, especially from people who stand to gain from lying to us? And I mean, there's far worse things that we're being lied to about on a daily basis, and it's such a weird thing to get mad over. Such a weird thing.
It is, and yet it's almost like once you strike that chord and you identify there's some real like fire and energy there, it almost is like, okay, well, now we know that if we do another video about the moon landing, it's probably going to be successful. And
Yeah. Oh, we
like,
have many
thank you.
more to come. Yeah.
That's so funny.
If our numbers are ever down, well, it's time for another moon landing video.
Dude, I think there's and then I'll move on from this, but I think that people get less resilient to dealing with conspiracy stuff if they feel like they've been had, right? So if I feel like I've been had, it makes me feel weak, right? It's, well, I've always believed, like, to my core that we landed on the moon, and so if someone telling me now that we maybe didn't, like, I want to reject that because I don't want to have been the weakling that was tricked. I don't know. That's where, like, being able to laugh at yourself and be like,
I don't see myself in any highly enough to think that I can't be duped. And
there you go.
I'm also not. I am not even. I don't have anything to do with NASA or anything else. Like, how? Of course, I could be duped. I don't know how they do things.
Oh my gosh.
You don't know how bad I was at math. Like,
yeah, I struggle with my, times tables. So whether or not we, land on the moon, that's not in my
I can't tell you that
job description.
Yeah.
So
weird.
People out there that men out there that are hopefully listening to us talk, but what advice would you give to somebody that's looking to create content?
Start. Actually, just start doing it. And I think content in social media these days is to be successful, it's kind of a numbers game. And we knew that starting out. We determined to do a video every single day for a year. Now,
Wow.
I don't recommend doing that if you have a severe time restraint, or if it's going to keep you from being with your family or whatever. But I do think you can try to find a balance and just get the ideas. You have a phone. We started out with our phone. Maybe get a microphone. Start making content, whatever it is, whether you want to do political commentary, whether you want to do comedy videos, whether you want to do something about healthy living. Start today. You're gonna start at 0, and it only takes one video to pop off. And then, like, it happened for us. It was video number 8 for us. At the same time, we've been making content for years behind that. So we had a little bit of a leg up for TikTok at the time. But, like, yeah, it's so easy to sit back and try to plan everything out, and you can plan so much that you just never actually do anything. I'm guilty of that in a lot of areas, but with social content, you just have to start, and then something because you never know what it actually is gonna what's actually gonna resonate with people. I'm still constantly surprised at what does well and what doesn't. Half the time we have a video that we don't like that we put out, like what we don't feel is very strong, does far better than something that we really loved and put a lot of heart into. That happens to us a lot. And so it's just start, and don't make excuses to not start. Especially if you have a phone, you can start.
100%. Do you
Yeah.
identify as an entrepreneur?
It depends on the day. Because I'm really bad at the business side of all of this.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm so focused on the content.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to, at this point, we're trying to put out 3 comedy videos a week.
Okay.
And so there's editing, well, on top of a podcast every week. So there's editing and writing and just thinking of ideas, like that's honestly the hardest part of the whole thing, is just trying to come up with ideas that we think will be good enough to make a video about. So on top of that, like, we've done courses, or a course. We haven't gotten merch yet. We're talking about trying to get a product out there to sell. We're actually going on tour, a comedy tour, with 1,000 Hours Outside, in February. So there's the business side of that. Just trying to sell tickets for that. And so there is an entrepreneur side of it where we're trying to create this into a legitimate business, but I can't truly escape that we are just content creators who haven't quite grasped the idea of how to turn it into a business.
That's good.
And I don't know if it's I'm not good at it, or if I just don't have the time and I need to start letting some things go. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to it.
That's
But
really honest, and I appreciate that. Monetization of content creation is far more challenging than I think people would think.
yeah,
And as soon as someone's like, "Oh my gosh, they had so and so on their podcast, or they have this many views, or this many followers, or this many subscribers, or whatever," and they think that like all of a sudden you're just rolling in money. And
no.
I want to be
Well,
the first
especially
one
with
to tell
short
you,
form content, like
"Oh
it's
my
you can
gosh,
have. I want to say we have a video with like 66 million views on YouTube, and I think it's made like $1,000 or something like that.
it's
So
crazy,
yeah,
bro."
it's not what you think. Now, if that were a long form video and somebody had
Different scenario,
66 million views, they're looking at like they have like 100 grand or something,
totally
like
different,
from that one
totally different.
video. It's a very
Yeah.
different space.
And when you say that, I think you're talking YouTube Shorts versus like a
Yes,
proper
correct.
like
Sorry.
12-minute video. And
Right.
now I'm with you. It's so funny how that works. And it's so funny. I think you guys really did it right. If I could do it over again, I talk to Elizabeth all the time. I'm like, man, I wish we would have invested more energy and effort into YouTube early, because man, Instagram is like a carrier to get you to another place. It's kind of like what it's best at.
Yeah.
And it's a weird, wild, it's a weird
These
wild game.
days, it goes back and forth. For us, at first, it was TikTok. TikTok was
Oh,
we were getting views like crazy on TikTok, and then YouTube really took off, and then Instagram. And now we're at a place where Instagram is where we tend to find our core audience, and everyone else is almost, and I can't say this for everybody, it's just how it presents itself to us. So I don't know if it's actually true, but everyone else seems to be kind of a passerby. You see they come and go, but on
interesting.
Instagram you see the same people over and over
There's
coming back
community.
for videos. And we actually have a very core group of people, and we value Instagram. I don't want to say more than the other platforms. It's just you can find your group there a lot easier. Maybe it's the messaging aspect of it, because I mean it acts as a better messenger situation, and the way the stories integrate and everything. So it's hard, because when you look at YouTube, it's just a viewing platform,
True.
and occasionally you see the same names pop up, but there's no way to interact other than comments. And TikTok's pretty much the same way. They tried messaging, but it really stinks. But all the other ones, it doesn't do what Instagram tends to do. So we always, and honestly, brand deals that we've gotten come from like companies that want to work with us, companies that we choose to work with. they want to work with us based on our Instagram audience, and we have 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and nobody wants to work with us based on YouTube. They want to work
That's
with us based on
surprising.
Instagram.
I wouldn't have
And
guessed that.
yeah, well, YouTube doesn't make it easy to really push a brand in the short form content, whereas Instagram does.
That's true.
It's a lot easier with the stories and stuff, and
And
we're able
linking
to
things too.
communicate. We're able to communicate products that we actually like and we think will benefit people a lot easier versus other platforms.
That's interesting. That's new for me. I hadn't thought about that. And it makes sense. I mean, there is such a thriving community of crunchy folks on Instagram.
It seems to be that demographic, the moms and I don't know, in their 20s to 40s, they tend to go towards Instagram a lot more in our crowd. Like when you look at our analytics,
That totally
sure.
makes sense.
Tell
me more about.
When I joined the videos, like a year into it, we saw it was like 98% women, and it came down to like 70%, and like we got a lot more guys on ever since, because I think a lot of husbands relate to our banter. So
100% they do. 100% they do. Tell me more about the tour that you're going on. Tell me more about the things, where people can find you, the things that you guys offer. I mean, I'm just gonna do a quick shout out because I was even Googling it myself to see if I could find them before we got on here. And you can go on Amazon and look up Jason D. Morrow and find all the fantasy books you've written. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of the books you've written. At first I was like, is this right? I was like, there's like a bunch of these books. There's like series, and I assume I found the right ones.
I wrote them a long time ago. They're they're
I think I found one that had like 2,000 reviews on it.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, go check those books out. Jason D. Morrow on Amazon. That's awesome. I dig that for some, I don't know what you pleasure reading, right? Because this is going to be fiction, whatever. What else? So this tour, you guys are going to a number of different cities. Where can people find you? Where can they get tickets?
Yeah, if you go to reallyverycrunchy.com/tour, we'll have our list of cities. It's not a large set of cities. We're doing like 5, so like Grand Rapids, going down to around the Atlanta area. So a few cities. It's going to be in February. So yeah, reallyverycrunchy.com/tour. And then another thing we've been doing, we're 32 episodes in, the Really Very Crunchy podcast is what we're doing right now. We actually talked to you last time we were on the show. We talked to you like, hey, should we what do you think about us doing a podcast? And you're like, go for it.
Please do it.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
You're partly to thank for that. So
how do you like it? How
or
do you
to
like
blame? I'm not sure.
How do you like doing the podcast?
It's really great. We love it. It's really cool because it's a forced hour for us to sit and just talk to each other face to face. Yeah, we've actually joked that every couple should just sit down and do a podcast for an hour a week, because think of a topic, sit down, do a podcast, and we've had so much fun with it. And we didn't expect it to be so good for us, just even relationally. And I mean, our topics are pretty random. It's not just crunchy stuff. It's about whatever we're thinking about. And now we haven't gotten into having guests yet or anything. But that's just kind of me not being a very good entrepreneur. So we'll see if we ever get there. But yeah, we're really enjoying it.
I dig it, man. That's so cool. Definitely go check that out. Everywhere you can find a podcast, you can find them. You can find Really Very Crunchy on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Right. You guys have X, all the stuff?
I mean, we're on X, I guess. We never really use it. It's not really doesn't seem to be the space for us. I'm not sure.
Sounds like definitely go hit them up on X, because you'll get them.
We're there. It's RV Crunchy there because it couldn't. We couldn't
spell it all out.
Yeah.
I have written down. I mean, obviously, when we all met last, the Really Very Crunchy book that Emily had authored had been coming out, and then since then, you guys or Emily has written a children's book.
Yeah.
Both of those things on the website as well. I found them there. I think you guys have them linked Is it on your Instagram, or is that just to your website?
It should be in our link tree on our bio on Instagram as well, or on the website. Really Very Crunchy. But
we'll
our
link
children's
that stuff
book
here
is
too.
what's that?
I said we'll link all these things in the show too.
Cool. Little Helper, Big Imagination. That's that one. And then
I dig it.
Her other one's Really Very Crunchy. Came out in March, so
that's awesome. I saw that. I was super stoked.
I'm super jealous because she got a real publisher, and it was like my dream, and she just kind of took that from me. Like, I'm proud of her, but man, come on. Wrote 20 books, couldn't get a publisher.
There's still time, man. There's still time. Yeah. Plenty of time. Jason, anything else, man? We talked moon landing. We talked, video games.
Well, I feel like I didn't get a chance to ask you any questions.
What do you got?
We're an hour and something in,
Hour 40. Yeah, we're deep, dude. We're deep.
We need to do another hour 40. And now I'm just going to ask you a list of questions.
I love that, man. That'll be so fun. And thank you so much for coming out and chatting. And look forward. I think y'all are coming to Cincinnati on your tour.
Yes.
And I saw that you're at. I think it's Uptown, which I think is a Crossroads Church branch, which we know about. And I have it in our calendar, so I would love. I'm planning on Elizabeth and I being there as soon as we can find childcare. And we just had a baby, so
show too. So
is it really?
Yeah.
There you go. So hoping to link up with you guys there, and anyone else that's wanting to join, definitely go check that out. That sounds super fun, super cool. And man, until next time, Jason Morrow, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.